Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories, where today, Karen blames me for her low salary as a teacher. My husband and I, both in our late 50s, have 3 lovely kids. James, who's 34, Maggie, who's 33, and June, who's 32. My husband is a lawyer, and I've been a paralegal since my last child graduated, so we make a good living. James is also a lawyer, same firm as his dad, and Maggie is now in law school after being a part-time paralegal while her 2 kids were younger. Her husband is in engineering and does quite well. I'm not trying to brag, but we all do quite well, and it's relevant to this posting. June is an elementary school teacher, and her husband manages a restaurant. They are both very hard workers, and I'm so proud of June for doing well at a very hard and vastly underpaid job. However, she's always jealous and complaining about how hard she has it. She's complained we have a cabin up in UP, Michigan, and she's got a starter home that we gave her money for. She's complained about her sister having nice clothes, her brother's house at the lake, her husband having loans for his masters, us having nice cars, you name it. She constantly complains about everything. Every time she comes over, she says things like, "Must be nice to go on vacation, must be nice to get new furniture," etc. Last night she started again, complaining that she can't afford to go to the UP house, and it must be nice to be able to afford gas and still be able to wear fancy clothes. I snapped. I told her her constant complaining was getting old. We gave her the same help with her college and grad school as her siblings, and she knew when she chose her career what the salary was. I told her I'm very proud of her, but she knew what she was getting into, and this attitude makes her family not want her around. She was furious and left, screaming that her siblings are golden kids and that she was just as good. I tried to tell her that wasn't true, but she wouldn't let me get a word in. She won't talk to me now, but she called her sister, who was quite put out by the whole thing, but on my side. My husband, however, said I should have just let it go, and my mother is very upset and is acting like I did something terrible. So, am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Why should everyone feel guilty for having disposable income? June could still choose a different career. My brother-in-law was a teacher and he hated it. Now he tutors kids in high school math. He works a couple of hours a day and makes more than he did teaching. He picked up a job lifeguarding in the summers when the kids aren't in school, and he just stayed on. So now he has a full-time job with the city with great benefits, and he works as a tutor at night. So now he's doing pretty well financially and he's pretty happy. The point is, June can probably figure out a way to make more money. I hope she doesn't have kids if she's already bitter about money. Why did her hub need a master's to manage a restaurant? Anyway, June's incessant complaining is annoying. P.S. Whenever anyone says, "must be nice," the best possible response is, "yes, it is. It really, really is." Am I the jerk? My husband accused me of financial infidelity. Husband, 33 male, and I, 33 female, have been together for 10 years, together since college. Since starting out, we have made financial security a priority and have been able to achieve that, albeit with some good luck along the way. We both have good jobs, paying close to $200,000 each. Student loans were paid off within a few years. We both went to state schools with scholarships, so didn't have a lot of debt to begin with. We live in a house that I inherited from my grandmother, no mortgage, and we don't have any credit card debt. We maxed out our 401ks and currently have 18 months of expenses in our emergency fund and are still adding to it. Our cars are both paid off and should be good for another 5+ years, and we don't have any credit card debt. We manage our finances in a hybrid manner, joint accounts for bills and savings, and separate accounts for our fun money. We each get a pretty generous monthly allotment. The fun money is strictly for our individual expenses, hobbies, clothes, outings with friends, etc., and not for things like date nights, vacations, or larger joint purchases like household appliances and repairs, which come out of our joint account. We also agreed that if either of us gets any bonuses or has any side hustle income, those will go into our individual fun money accounts, unless the funds are needed for a larger expense, such as a major home repair. In terms of the fun money, my husband is much more of a spender than I am due to his expensive hobbies, in particular golf and collecting sports memorabilia, and he's also more into designer clothes, which is fine, it's his fun money. On the other hand, my hobbies are a lot less expensive. Running, working out, reading, baking. In general, I'm more introverted, and a great time for me is tea with a friend at one of our homes with homemade pastries. I've also been getting back into gaming lately after setting it aside for much of the past decade while building my career. After realizing I had more than enough in my fun money account, I decided to overhaul my gaming setup and got myself a new PC, desk, and gaming chair, total cost of about $5,000. However, upon hearing about the purchase, my husband was furious. He says he had no idea I had saved so much money and that I should have consulted him before spending $5,000. I asked what difference it made if it was my own accrued fund money and not from our joint funds, and he insisted that my accumulating this amount without telling him was a form of financial infidelity. He says that he lost trust in me and doesn't know what else I might be hiding. He's demanding that I return the items I purchased and deposit most of the funds to our joint account. He wants to make a new rule that fund money accounts can't accumulate more than $2,000 and that any excess goes back to the joint account, a rule that would obviously favor him as a person who spends most of his allotment each month instead of saving up for anything bigger. I feel like I'm being punished for being more of a day-to-day saver than spender. It wouldn't occur to me to demand to know how much money my husband has in his fund money account or to try to micromanage what he spends it on. I wasn't hiding anything deliberately. He never asked about it until after I made the purchase. Still, maybe I should have been more transparent about my plans. So, am I the jerk? Info. Husband and I each have our own office in the house, so it's not like the gaming setup was going in a space he uses. I don't usually game when my husband is home unless he's already busy doing something else. My biggest block of gaming time is typically when he's off playing golf. Also, I run 40 to 50 miles a week, so it's not like I'm generally sedentary. I can't think of a good reason why he would object to me gaming or have a nice gaming setup in my own space of the house. Edit. I actually had and have a lot more than $5,000 saved. We have had this arrangement for a few years, and I typically only spend about $500 of my allotted $1,500 a month. Maybe a bit more some months if I need to replace my running shoes, buy other clothes, or have any outings with friends planned, like concerts, but in that range. Girl, what does he contribute to your household? Although our incomes are about equal, I work shorter hours at home, with occasional in-office days or business travel, and he works long hours in the office, plus an hour of commuting time each way. Perhaps because I'm home all the time, having a very tidy home and fresh cooked meals is a priority for me. I primarily do these things for me and not for him, even though he benefits as well. I'd still have to cook and clean if I were living in the house by myself, unless I wanted to hire someone to do those things. But I don't, as I genuinely enjoy cooking and doing housework. We do have breakfast together most days, unless he has to leave early, dinner together most days, and weekend date and activity time, in addition to pursuing our own hobbies. He's smart, hilarious, and a delightful companion, at least other than this latest issue. I realize I haven't emphasized the positives in this thread because I've been pretty upset, but other than this, he has been a great partner and husband. Together, we have a joint savings account of $250,000, plus retirement savings approaching the 7-figure mark. Could he be hiding a debt or gambling addiction? I manage all of our bank accounts and check them daily, and also handle all the bill pay. Nothing suspicious so far. He admits he's not great with money and would spend more without a budget. Update, 8 days later. My husband finally calmed down enough to have a conversation with me. As many others who provided comments suggested, it wasn't really about the money, but a window into larger issues in our relationship. Essentially, my husband has been feeling increasingly unhappy with me for a while for the following reasons. In general, he feels that he's a lot more committed to his career development than I am to mine. It's true that although we currently have about the same income, the ceiling for his field, finance, is a lot higher than the one for mine, tech and software dev. He's currently in an executive training program, and I'm decidedly not. He's feeling resentful that he's having to work long hours in a high-pressure environment while I get to work primarily at home, doing something that is fun and fairly easy for me, and I'm not stretching myself to do more. He's concerned that over time, these resentments are going to build, and that I'm not going to end up pulling my weight financially if he takes huge leaps in his career and I don't. He remarked that, since getting back into gaming a few months ago, I've been putting a bit less effort into cooking. I do nearly all of the cooking because I work at home and have an easier schedule. It's true that I have been fixing simpler meals, things like grilled chicken salads or chili with cornbread, instead of elaborate meals with fussier foods and several sides. He also has noticed that I haven't been doing the elaborate table settings I used to, with flowers on the table, fancy placements, etc. Honestly, I didn't realize he noticed or cared about this, but apparently he does. Acts of service are one of his main love languages, so overall he's feeling a little neglected because of this. He also feels I'm not putting enough effort into my appearance. Not in terms of weight or body, I'm a long-distance runner and I'm slim, but in terms of things like clothes, hair, etc. It's true that I've never paid much attention to these things, given that I work at home in tech. The standard for appearances is extremely low, and I far exceed that. I tend to buy simple, practical clothes at places like Target and Walmart, don't wear much makeup, and keep my hair in a simple ponytail. I do glam up a lot for date nights and other dressy occasions, but most days he comes home from work to find me in a t-shirt and yoga pants with no makeup, and he wants me to make more of an effort. The bottom line is that because of all these things, he started to notice other women. Says he hasn't cheated, he's just noticing other people because he's regularly disappointed in me. In particular, given that he works in finance, there are a good number of very career-oriented type A women who manage to have fantastic bodies, be effortlessly polished and glam, and have more interesting hobbies. He also says he feels horrible about all of this because he knows I'm a good person and that he's being judgmental, that it's not so much I've changed as this is his own goals and expectations which have changed in the past couple of years. The financial infidelity part came into it because he feels I'm not really investing myself in our relationship, thus cheating on our future in a sense. He also says he loves me enough to be honest. I do believe he isn't trying to be hurtful. I really had to drag all of this out of him. That he doesn't want us to drift apart further, that he doesn't want to be angry and resentful, and he knows he's asking for a lot. I know many on this sub will tell me to just tell him to take a hike and call my lawyer, but we've been married for 10 years, have invested a lot in the relationship, and I want to see if the marriage can be saved. So a couple things. First, we did make an appointment with a marriage counselor and start next week. Also, I'm going to try to do at least some of the above. I'm not sure about making myself be more professionally ambitious when I'm already happy with my work-life balance and we're already financially comfortable, but I can at least try doing some of the other things, return to spending more time on cooking and decor, and fix myself up a bit when he's on his way home from work. Now that I know that they're important to him, I also know that in the end, I may feel like I'm just tiptoeing around and contorting myself to please him, but it won't cost me much, certainly much less than a divorce, to try for a month or two and see how we both feel. And I know I would always regret it if I didn't try. So maybe not the update you were expecting or hoping for, but that's where things are. And if folks continue to be interested, I can update you again. Update. So the more I thought about it, the more his requests and demands really were sitting poorly with me. I decided to try a little experiment over the weekend to see what would happen if I tried to meet some of his demands. Not because I actually thought they were reasonable, but because I increasingly had the sense that the goalposts would just keep moving and that I was playing a losing game. So Saturday morning, I went to the salon for a glow-up, haircut, fresh highlights, manicure and pedicure, then went to the farmer's market to pick up fresh flowers for our table and assorted other gourmet ingredients. Saturday is usually our date night out, but I suggested we stay in so I could make us a special dinner, steakhouse style, lobster, bread basket with several types of rolls, savory muffins made from scratch, crab stuffed mushrooms, all kinds of stuff. I wore a lavender, his favorite color, on me, sheathed dress and high heels, and fully did hair and makeup. For all of that, I got a lukewarm, "Thanks, it was tasty," and a kiss on the cheek. Of course, I did all of the serving and cleanup too. Sunday, we usually go out, but he suggested I make us brunch at home. So I made French press coffee, mimosas with fresh squeezed orange juice, Belgian waffles with banana Foster topping, and a lot more stuff too. I wore a blue sleeveless sundress, wedge sandals, again did my hair and makeup. Again I got a "Thanks, it's good," and no help with serving or cleaning. Afterwards, I asked if this was what he had in mind when he critiqued me before. He said that it was a start, but that I was acting very entitled for wanting credit for basic adulting. He then dropped a bomb that he was being so hard on me because he had realized lately I had a lot to make up for since I wasn't up to his standards. What? He then went on to say that because I'm not up to his standards, I was going to need to be making it up to him for the rest of my life, that I was lucky that anyone at all wanted to marry me, and that he's connected with someone from work, so if I wanted to keep him, I'd better step up. I told him it didn't sound like there was anything to keep if he no longer loved me, or even liked or respected me. Told him to leave, and he said he would gladly go to his girlfriend's place. I know so many people were insisting that he was having an affair, and I just didn't want to see it, that his complaints were really all a part of a campaign to distance himself from me. I feel so foolish for just thinking he was going through a stressful time at work, or that he genuinely wanted to work on our marriage. Anyway, I've taken the week off from work to get my head together. Have an appointment with a lawyer tomorrow. Canceled the marriage counseling appointment, but got a referral to an individual therapist who can do an intake session with me later in the week. He, and the girlfriend apparently, are coming over this evening to get more of his clothes and things, so I have to brace myself for that. I know the divorce won't be fun or easy, but I will be okay. Thank you all for helping me see that I was being played before. I wasted too much more time in a marriage that was already over. Yes, he admitted he had been having an affair for several months. He kept trying to say, "It doesn't really count as cheating, because I'm not up to his standards." Wait, they're in their early 30s, have close to $1 million saved for retirement, plus another $250,000, no debt, and she enjoys her job while also making quite a healthy salary? He's worried she won't pull her financial weight? What on earth? How many yachts does this bozo need to water ski behind? Honey, you seem comfortable and happy. That makes me angry, and I might end up cheating if you don't abandon all that comfort to do whatever I want you to do, because my comfort and happiness are all that really matters. I'm glad that my wife's ex cheated on her. I know the title sounds bizarre, but hear me out. My wife and I used to be neighbors. I was working as an electrician at that time. I saw her the day she moved in. She looked really sad and lonely. I decided to help her move in because there was no one to do that for her. From then, we used to bump into each other a lot. I wanted to speak more to her, but she never seemed interested in me. One day, I saw her crying in front of the stairs. She looked really devastated. From there, I got to know her story. She has dealt with a lot of health issues. She had multiple cysts that she had to go in for operations. She was also suffering from PCOS, which actually affected her fertility. She used to be married to a man, but he cheated on her with her best friend and got her pregnant. Then he kicked her out and divorced her. I sat there with her because I know she needed a real friend. I wasn't really expecting anything in return. We got closer and closer, and I finally grew some courage to ask her out. I didn't care if she could give me kids or not. I just wanted to be with her because she's an awesome lady and life wasn't fair towards her. We dated for a few years and then got married. She has been my rock. I wanted to go back to school and finish my diploma, and she has supported me through it. I always tell her that I'm really lucky to have her in my life. I never knew what family felt like until I married her. I grew up in a horrible family. It took me years of therapy to cope with it. But with her, I feel like I have found peace in life. I love her so much that words are not enough to express it. Now, as I'm writing this, she's sleeping on my lap while she was watching a Barbie marathon. I know one other thing about her. It's that she is pregnant and hasn't told me. The only reason I know is because I found her planner, then I borrowed her laptop for something. I opened it and discovered she has planned to tell me about the pregnancy 3 days later on our wedding anniversary. Can't say I haven't noticed it yet. I have observed some signs. She also throws up in the morning. I won't spoil the surprise for her. I know it makes me sound like a bad person, but in a way, I'm glad her husband cheated on her. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had this angel in my life. I mean, think about it. If her husband hasn't cheated on her and left her, we would probably never have met, and I'd be trying to go through life helpless, trying to cope with loneliness. I'm glad it happened. I'm sure she feels that way too, just not the way I do. If I ever encounter her husband, I'll probably punch him first, then hug him and say, "Thank you and forget you, you jerk." Update. So today she came home from work. She looked really worried. I thought she would be happy because tomorrow is our anniversary. We have plans, and usually she's excited and always talks about what she can do. I asked her how her day went, and she cried. I was scared. I was scared for us and our baby. She told me she's been keeping a secret from me, and she wanted to tell me on our anniversary. I didn't tell her that I already knew. She told me she was pregnant. She has known about this for 2 weeks, and she is now 8 weeks pregnant. She noticed some changes and took a test. She didn't want to tell me early because she was afraid of what could happen. Years ago, when she was with her ex-husband, she lost 2 in around 6 weeks. She was afraid that could happen again, and she didn't want to disappoint me. She thought if she lost it, only she would know and it wouldn't affect me. But when she reached up to 8 weeks, she decided to tell me. But she went to the doctor today, taking a half day from work. The doctor told her that she's still at risk. That's why she was afraid. She said she can't keep it a secret. Her plan was ruined because of it, and so she is telling me this early. I tried to calm her down. I told her if she stresses about it, it will not be good to either you or the baby. We can only hope for the best. No matter what happens, I will be with her throughout this journey. She asked me if I had known about this. I told her yes, I did. She smiled and said she figured it out because last few days I've been touching her belly a lot. We are still planning on the reveal. I might as well act surprised, even though it was spoiled by me. Am I tensed? Yes, because it's obviously a complicated pregnancy. But we can hope for the best, and both my baby and my wife will be safe. The doctor said since she's in her mid-30s, there could be other complications as well. We might get a second opinion on it soon, but for now, we are enjoying our years together. Am I the jerk for installing a doorknob with a lock on my bedroom door after I got fed up with people barging in one too many times? I, 21 male, am home for the summer from college. Much of my time I've been playing video games with friends and hunting for achievements after having been unable to do so thanks to previous workloads. But I also am doing some studying in between, along with helping around the house when asked and looking for summer work. No matter how many times I make it abundantly clear, my family still won't respect my boundaries. One important one is my bedroom. Even though I've said that a closed door is a very visible boundary, my parents, younger brother, and older sister, when she comes to visit, often just turn open the doorknob and barge in to ask or tell me about some pretty mundane stuff most of the time. It's mildly understandable with a slightly ajar or fully open door, but it's summertime, and in the late evenings, we let in some cool air. But if they knock and I don't respond because I have my AirPods in, then they just barge in anyway. My younger brother is the worst of the bunch. He oftentimes goes into my room to tell me about a mundane story about what happened in high school with his friends, and it's tiring having to remind him for the billionth time that I simply am not interested. Sometimes when I was away at college, he would go into my room and use something like a notebook I was keeping for notes or my cardioid mic for a therapy session without even asking me on the phone. He doesn't even put it back when he's done, and I'm tired of literally yelling at him to stay out of my room and not touch my stuff because I don't do that to him. A couple of days ago, my brother barged into my room to simply hand me a snack I didn't even ask for whilst I was playing my game. My door was closed, and I didn't even realize he was there, and I again told him, "Don't randomly barge into my room." Then yesterday we had a family gathering, and my brother proceeded to tell people about the mods that he had seen me using on my game to try to embarrass me. It was some pretty juicy stuff. I made up a story on the spot about how I had accidentally joined the game, which I also told my parents when they asked me about it, and when my brother insisted otherwise, I essentially had to gaslight him into thinking he massively misremembered things. After that, I decided that I had had it. I hauled myself to the bus, went to Lowe's, bought myself a doorknob lock, and swapped it out myself. Earlier today, I had locked my door and later heard it jiggle, then some knocks. It was my brother, and I told him that thanks to him, I had no choice but to install a lock on my door, which he then told my parents about. Dad lectured me about how I don't modify his house without permission, to which I shot back that nobody modifies my privacy without permission and simply put in my earbuds. Since then, Dad's blocked my devices from Wi-Fi until we discuss logistics of my door lock, and I've been using USB tethering since. Am I going insane here? Not the jerk for your lock. You're an adult and privacy is a reasonable expectation. However, you are a major jerk when it comes to your brother. It's pretty obvious he wants to spend time with you. Telling him you don't care about what he says and getting mad that he brought you a snack? Seriously? Makes you a major one. You mentioned therapy. Man, I hope he isn't struggling and reaching out to you and you're being like this. Karen loses it when I ask if she's pregnant. I'm male, 25. My friend, female, 23, usually goes to the gym regularly and parties a lot. Lately, I've noticed that she stopped drinking entirely, same as smoking, and has stopped lifting heavy and going to the gym as regularly as she used to. On top of that, lately she'll often excuse herself to go to the bathroom, presumably to throw up, and I've noticed that she got a bit thicker and watery. Don't get me wrong, I'm not jabbing her looks, it's just something I've noticed. When we were out the other week and I noticed she hadn't even touched her Red Bull, I pulled her to the other side to have a private conversation and asked her if she's pregnant. She immediately flipped out and denied it. Right after that, she went home and I covered for her when the group asked me why she went home. I texted her later that night asking if I had overstepped, and she simply replies, "You literally called me overweight, jerk." I never did such a thing, but I simply let her be instead of arguing. Today, another friend told me she indeed is pregnant, and I don't know what to make of her reaction towards me when I asked her in a 4-eye conversation. Am I the jerk? Edit. For those curious why I asked her, I verbatim said, "I noticed you've been excusing yourself pretty lately and are avoiding some things. Could it be that you're pregnant?" Edit. Well, this post was a waste of time, except you don't do that, which is most of the replies. There has been little actually useful feedback. Why don't you do that? Why is it not socially acceptable to ask a close friend a normal question in a private setting? It's none of your business. Like, if that's the energy, you could apply that to any question ever. It's a simple yes or no. Are we in the 1950s still? Update. She messaged me and we met up during lunch break. She apologized for overreacting, and I apologized for if my question was intrusive. We came to the conclusion that my question wasn't intrusive, and neither did she overreact. She told me she's 2 months pregnant and didn't think anyone had noticed. She was keeping it a secret, at least to the guy circle of our group, because she was afraid of being called names. That's why she had freaked out when I asked her, and it's also why she tried to deflect. I reassured her that nobody would feel that way, especially not in our group. We are all very supportive and are looking forward to doing our best in helping her out the following months. I also showed her this post, and she had a good laugh at some of the way overboard "you're the jerk" comments, especially the one that called me a creep. To be fair, she also said many of them put forward valid points, but that they are in most cases concerning strangers and not close friends you've shared big things with before. Babysitting means paying your kids' dental bills? Years ago, I would often babysit my neighbor's daughter who was about 9. He was a divorced father with the kind of an ex that would send spreadsheets of child-rearing expenses calculated to the penny and weekly invoices complete with terms and penalties of her own choosing for late payments. He paid big child support and generally paid her invoices on time because she would cut off access to kiddo if he didn't. His ex, the snake, and I had basic text messaging contact. She and I had a previous dust-up because a sudden weather change necessitated a jacket for kiddo. We popped into the nearest discount store and I let her pick a jacket. Kiddo loved it, but her mother threw a giant fit at me because it wasn't brand name. I blew it off and the neighbor and I laughed about it when he reimbursed me. She gave me the silent treatment. Darn. Time moved forward. Father always reimbursed kiddo's expenses and encouraged fun and healthy activities. One day, he called me and apologized that he was getting held up at work and kiddo had an orthodontist appointment. He asked me to take her, I agreed, and he called the dentist to authorize. We got there and they wouldn't see her without a payment, $225. It was necessary. Kiddo's braces were hurting her. Dad wasn't available, but I knew he would reimburse me, so I put it on my credit card rather than calling her snake of a mother. Kiddo got patched up, Dad reimbursed me, I paid the card and didn't use it. A few months later, I got a past due call from my card company, repeat charges from the orthodontist. I let Dad know and called the orthodontist, who told me I signed an automatic payment agreement. I gave my, "Oh no, I'm just the babysitter" speech and didn't get far with them, so I canceled the card. Dad apologized profusely and he reimbursed me. A month later, I get a nasty call from the orthodontist about my card declining. I kindly inform them that I'm not the parent and I provide the snake's phone number. About an hour later, the snake is furiously calling and texting me. I silenced my phone and looked later. She maxed out my voicemail, and all of her text messages were about how wrong it was of me to deny her kid medical care. One voicemail was from the police, letting me know that she filed a complaint, how I could get a copy from my attorney, and inquiring about whether I wanted to counter-complain. I sure did. I moved out of state, and the prosecutor called me once just to ask questions, then I never heard back from the prosecutor. Last I heard from kiddo's grandmother, the snake took a plea bargain. Dad got custody, and Grandma was enjoying a lot more time with kiddo. Am I the jerk for telling my housemate his girlfriend can't stay here anymore? I share an apartment with a friend I've known for years. We're both male 24. We've had this place for over a year and haven't had any real issues. We get along well and do heaps together. He works full-time. I'm a university student, and we split all bills, food, and rent down the middle. We hate the idea of shared houses and just wanted to feel like a home. A few months ago, he started seeing a girl, T, who spends every day and night at our place. T is also a university student and she can't stand her studio apartment. Until recently, I've had no issue with T being here and have never even asked her to pay for anything. She eats all meals at our place and takes food to uni if she needs. The way I see it, housemate and I just buy a bit more food and it really doesn't matter. The other week, I got home from uni, went to the kitchen to make a coffee. I had an assignment I needed to work on, so I wanted to pick me up. And when I opened the fridge, I noticed some Red Bulls. I just assumed my housemate had bought them for us, so I grabbed one and drank it. The next morning at breakfast, T opens the fridge and then got super angry that one of her Red Bulls was missing. I said it was me and that I thought my housemate had bought them. She started telling me how she bought them for herself and how I should have asked and that I needed to apologize for taking it. I was going to tell T that it's my fridge and I shouldn't have to ask if I can have stuff in it, but I didn't want to start conflict, so I just apologized. She demanded I buy her a replacement. Since then, she started labeling any drinks or food she brings for herself and makes a point of saying it's hers. After all this, I've said to my housemate that I don't want her staying at our place unless she's going to start paying rent, paying for bills, and pitching in to pay for food. I don't want to pay for her anymore, just so that she can mistreat me for taking a drink from my own fridge. Am I the jerk? Update. Just to address some of the common things I've been reading, also thanks all, it's nice to see only a few said I'm the jerk. I avoided saying anything at the time because my housemate and I are close to brothers, and I don't want to fight like this to make him have to pick. Honestly, I know he would dump her and stick with me. Housemate is a great guy, and I in no way think that he's trying to use me. When I've had girlfriends stay or we've had mates over, we've just kept to 50-50 as always. Sometimes people buy us food or pitch in as thanks, but we never expect it. He and I act more as family in a house rather than housemates, which is why it's never been an issue. T is very manipulative. As a side story, housemate and I always do a movie night once a week. It's our tradition and we love it. T has said she wants to join us, and then every time, around 30 minutes in, she will whisper something to him or act a certain way and draw him away to go in the other room. Honestly, it's peeved me a tad, as she is clearly just trying to assert some dominance there, but I also joke with the housemate about it. I have laughed at the few comments calling me a pushover, and I can see how it looks like that here. I normally am the first to stand up and react to something and can't stand people being rude. In this situation, it hasn't been an issue until this, and my desire to not cause an issue was less about her, more about not wanting conflict with the housemate. Since I talked to him about her needing to pay or leave, she has spent more time at her own place, but now just comes around and has the ability to destroy the mood in any room. I want them to separate. I think he can't see this lasting either, but she is hot and he doesn't think straight. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.